Okay, good morning. Be calling this meeting to order, regular meeting for March 9th, 2024. If you could please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the state flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of friendship among united cultures.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item of the agenda is going to be approval of the regular meeting agenda.
So move. Second.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Medina, second by Commissioner Billings. Do we have any discussion? Commissioner Brown?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to table, just so everybody knows this is what we intend to do, under agreements number 11P and Q, which are the work and financial plan with the USDA and the cooperative service agreement with USDA for wildlife damage management. We discovered on Tuesday the contracts weren't as we expected, and we need some time to clean them up, make them consistent with what we have approved in the past. And my purpose in doing that now instead of later is so that public input is informed that that's our intention.
Is that sort of what we discussed?
Yeah.
You know, and being under discussion, I know our county manager's been real busy, but I'm sort of curious on this. I read some of this earlier today. I know when Commissioner Salas was a commissioner, we had discussed and we had approved that this contract or these contracts should not have M44s on public land. And it was pretty specifically spelled out. Reading this, it does not have that. I know you're busy, but maybe Mr. Fajardo can call and I can have that discussion with him. Because to me, that contract that's approved by commissioners should mirror what our wishes have been in the past. And I understand there's gonna be other wording and stuff that needs to be put in, either by law or whatever things that have changed, but, and also if you don't mind, if you can have somebody on your staff get me an old contract to compare the wording to what's in this one, I'd really appreciate that. And, if you want, I can reach out to Mr. Fajardo. If that's not my job, I don't know. Is that yours? But anyway, I'm not happy with the way this one was written either, so I'd appreciate that. Anything else on this, Commissioner? So we're gonna table it?
If the motion can be amended,
Well,
that would be
I
great.
would amend the motion.
Yeah, if you want. Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as presented, tabling items P and Q. Second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Commissioner Medina and a second by Commissioner Billing. Do we have any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next item of the agenda is going to be public input. During this portion of our meeting, we welcome your suggestions and want to hear your concerns. This is not a question and answer period. Speakers will be limited to 5 minutes. Any individuals who would like to discuss an item in more depth may request to be placed on a future agenda in the forms in the county manager's office. Do we have anyone in the audience that would like public speak?
Chairman and members of the board, Randy Ramos, Planning and Community Development Director. On Thursday, I included in my report that the Colonias Board will be making awards next week. Due to our audit lateness, we will most likely not be getting any of those awards, so I just wanted to correct my misspeaking. I apologize.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Franco, do we have people on
There
Zoom?
was somebody in the audience, actually. You might not
Is
have
there?
seen her.
Oh, come on, I'm sorry.
She's behind the podium. She's behind the podium.
Good morning. Press the white button. White button, okay. Sorry. My name is Christine Hess. I am from the White Signal area. It was brought to my attention that there is some sort of wildlife damage contract that is trying to be pushed through. I am fairly new on some of this, but I am aware that 4 years ago, M44s and foothold traps were gotten rid of. It seems to me that there are those that want to put this back into the language. I think it's 100% barbaric. I have heard about what these M44s do, and shame on humanity if we are even considering something like this, much less foothold traps. Put yourself in that sort of predicament. And we know what happens if an animal does go ahead and take in this M44. I understand it explodes in their mouth and then the cyanide goes down into its body. What an awful death, much less if they're held for who knows how long in some kind of trap. And then, sadly, they have died. And then we have other things that are hungry and on feeding on these carcasses, well, they also die. So my concern is we need to not have that in this contract. I also understand that the working hours for the agent may have been cut down, but is he still being paid for the original who knows how many hours? I think we all need to know as well what are her responsibilities. I would like to find out more on that. So I am standing up today here to say we need to make some changes, and thank you for tabling this. So there seems to be a lot of concerns for the cattle. I think we need to respect and appreciate and admire what we have in this state, all this wildlife. I'm out there a lot hiking, and to me it's a joy every time I do go ahead and see some wildlife. I think it's sad, if I understood correct, that the mountain lion and the bear, the limit for their hunting has been increased, that we can now take more. I think we need to learn to live with this wildlife in respect. So we talk about the cattle. I think there's too many cattle here. They encroach upon our wilderness areas. They pressure all the wildlife. And then there's those that say, whoa, you know, they've downed our cattle. Is this really so all the time? Then I have to wonder how much each of these cows, the reimbursement is on it. I think I heard a figure, and it was way out of line. You couldn't send a cow to market and ever get that. So, yes, I appreciate that this is tabled, and I think there's a lot of different things to look into. None of this should be rushed through, and I think the public should also be appropriately made aware of, okay, there are these meetings coming up, so that everybody, hey, I'd like to attend. So, thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in the audience? Thank you. Ms. Franco, what about Zoom?
Glenn Griffith and April Lee.
Okay, Mr. Glenn, go ahead.
If you'll unmute, sir.
Can't hear you, Glenn. You're muted, Glenn.
Does this all the time. How come you're not-
No, I haven't started the time. Glenn, can you hear me?
Yes, just now. I did not have the screen. It was taken away.
Okay.
Had to go backwards.
All right, so go ahead and start now.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, they're back. I'm Glenn Griffin, Commission District 4 resident. Thank you for allowing my input by Zoom on our publicly funded wildlife damage management listed on today's agenda in section 11, O and P. Last year in late June, there was no discussion before the commissioners voted to renew the contract. And as a result, the Wildlife Service contract and the agent are spinning out of control unchecked. What is the rush to get this contract approved? Is it to cover up our agent's lack of work, his inability to follow the contract, or to show support for ranchers? Commissioners held the approval of the 2022 contract until September 22nd of that year. Here's what is being hidden from us. The return of foothold traps and M44s on public lands. The gifts that keep on killing, from coyotes and eagles to possibly harming search and rescue personnel, hikers, and dogs. What are commissioners thinking when the proposed contracts clear wildlife services of any liability and put the liability on the county? The agency lost the lawsuit to use these on New Mexico public lands in 2021, and again on local, county, and state lands under Roxy's law in 2022. The cyanide bomb, M44, is now banned on BLM lands. From the latest quarterly report ending March 31st, 2024, most commissioners seem to be okay with the agent only working 66 hours out of the required 250. That means we are paying the agent $324 per hour, and few commissioners care. I heard some commissioners in Tuesday's work session speaking about keeping a tight budget. So why now give Wildlife Services a blank check and not enforce the contract language? We were lied to in Tuesday's work session. The taxpayer's check is up from $86,000 to now $92,000, a 7% raise. Commissioners could ask what Wildlife Service is up to instead of no discussion. They owe it to those of us who helped pay the $324 per hour. Apparently, many of my commissioners don't care. In 4 years now, not one non-lethal relocation has been conducted as is mandated as the first choice before lethal killings. In the 2021 lawsuit, Wildlife Services was mandated to significantly increase its overall transparency with public documenting. They have not. Some commissioners hadn't read the 2 proposed contracts Tuesday, but appeared to be ready to sign off again. I hope commissioners do not rubber stamp Wildlife Services again, as most did last year. I hope the commissioners will table the Wildlife Service agreements today. Thank you for taking my public comment.
Thank you. Ms. Franco?
Ms. Lee? You need to unmute as well, please.
Okay.
There you go.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is April Lee, and I live in District 3. I was born and raised in New Mexico, and I love this place. After reading the Wildlife Services Q2 24 report, I'm confounded by the lack of actual substantive data reported. The grandiose title of Mr. Nahar Jr. contains more actual information than does his report, and that isn't saying much. Once again, there are no GPS coordinates or plat data for ranches included in the report. The report contains no identifying information whatsoever, meaning that the 10 ranches listed could well be the same ranch and could actually just be land owned by Freeport McMoran. The proposed new contract, which is clearly just cut and pasted from an old one, has numerous points for concern. The state of New Mexico's Roxy's Law outlaws the use of leg-hold traps on public lands. Yet foothold traps are included in the approved wildlife damage management tools and equipment list. Why is this so? The new contract also includes the use of M44 cyanide canisters. These, like leg-hold traps, are draconian and cruel, and taxpayers should not be footing the bill for their use against our own wildlife. I attended game and fish meetings for years to help get Roxy's Law passed, and their proposed future use in Grant County is troubling and a definite step backwards. The following information is not included in the Q2 24 report as required by contract. A, the type of land upon which contractual activities were carried, on, such as BLM, county, municipal, military, private, or state, and the identity of the requesting entity. E, the number and types of species relocated, freed, or dispersed. G, the number of outreach efforts by species provided or supported for the purpose of educating the public on how to coexist with wildlife and manage property in such a way to avoid wildlife conflicts, and the estimated or actual number of people reached. The proposed 2024 contract stipulates APHIS WS will, quote, assign one wildlife biological technician for the period of performance for this work financial plan averaging at least 624 hours per year, distributed among direct control activities, technical assistance, USDA WS required administrative tasks, and annual leave. Even including pay for Mr. Nahar's annual leave, and giving him the benefit of the doubt that he would account for the minimum required 624 hours, which he definitely didn't do in the Q2 24 report, he would make a whopping $107 per hour if paid the $66,813.50 as delineated in the proposed contract. My sister and her husband are full-time cattle ranchers in New Mexico. New Mexico has numerous ranchers who keep cows more as a side hustle than as their actual livelihood. Freeport can be classed in this latter category. So too can numerous area ranchers who lease national forest land for less than its market value, then turn cows out to fend for themselves much of the time. For people who decry at every turn any harm purportedly inflicted on their cattle from wildlife, they show a callous disregard for the continued well-being of their cattle. It's lazy ranching, plain and simple, to turn cows out and expect wildlife to have nothing to do with it in the forest. The Gila National Forest is not a conducive place to turn a dog loose on its own, let alone cows. The continuance of national forest land leases and wildlife services in Grant County, a misnomer if there ever was one, is akin to allowing someone to own a restaurant for which the government pays all the ingredients and staff, and the restaurant owner keeps the profits. That's what national forest land leases for cows amount to. The leases are not open to everyone equally, and typically inherited. The price charged for a cow-calf combo to graze on and degrade national forest land, increase fire risk, and trash riparian areas is nowhere near commensurate with the overall cost to taxpayers for the cleanup and the oversight by various government agencies, let alone paying one supervisory wildlife specialist supervisor and two subordinates to shoot random wildlife and ascribe inflated costs to supposed losses of livestock and property damage. I've grown much of my family's produce for years, and I'm well aware of the harsh conditions New Mexico presents to agriculture. But utilizing nature through companion planting, organic gardening, and thoughtful observance of changes in soil conditions is far more effective than pretending I can somehow conquer nature into doing my bidding. Those most likely to call upon wildlife services for their indiscriminate shooting tend to live in the county and tend to adhere to scorched earth agricultural practices that neither benefit their attempts to farm nor wildlife. They pay a lower tax rate than those of us in Silver City, and
Thank you.
wildlife services just
5 minutes are up. Thank you.
It isn't that there isn't money to fix crumbling
Thank you.
sidewalks or provide
5 minutes are up.
villages and the necessary.
Okay. Moving on to, next item of the agenda is gonna be proclamations. Under A, consideration of proclamation Motorcycle Awareness Month. Ms. Franco.
May is Motorcycle Awareness Month. Whereas New Mexico extensive road systems provide some of the most magnificent riding in the United States, making Grant County an ideal location for motorcycle use, and whereas many registered motorcyclists who undergo extensive training and testing in order to obtain a license call Grant County home and enjoy the roadways we have to offer. And whereas riders face a higher risk on the roads than those operating vehicles, statistics show that those operating vehicles are at fault in the majority of all accidents involving a motorcycle. And whereas it is imperative that motorcyclists always exercise caution and stay alert while traveling on Grant County road systems, and whereas the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has declared May as Motorcycle Awareness Month. It is the desire of the Commission to join the NHTSA in raising awareness of the growing number of motorcyclists on Grant County roadways in order to help prevent accidents and, most importantly, save lives. Now therefore, the Board of Grant County Commissioners does hereby proclaim May as Motorcycle Awareness Month.
Thank you. Do I have a motion, Commissioners?
I move we approve this proclamation.
So a motion by Commissioner Brown, I have a second by Commissioner Billings. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Mr. Sturgeon is not here to receive the proclamation, but we do this every year, so really like to thank him for that. Moving on to the next item, it's gonna be consideration of proclamation for National EMS Week. Commissioner Medina.
Yes, thank you. County of Grant Proclamation. Whereas emergency medical service is a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical service teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, firefighters, educators, administrators, emergency nurses, emergency physicians, and others. And whereas the members of the emergency medical service teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical service providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Now therefore, the County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim the week of May 20th through 24th, 2024 to be declared as Emergency Medical Services Week.
Commissioner Medina.
I'd like to make a motion.
To approve, I
To
assume?
approve, yeah, to
I will
approve.
second the motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Medina, a second by Commissioner Brown. Discussion.
Quick comment.
There you go.
I just want to thank all the men and women that do this. Volunteer, paid, fire, ambulance, EMS, flight, the guys who come out at 3 o'clock in the morning, because just to help their community. I just want to thank them for everything they do. And I know a lot of times they're not recognizing what they see and what they go through, and just appreciate their never-ending efforts. Thank you, guys.
Just want to say thank you also, living in a rural community here. Understand some of the places you guys go and end up, and what you're faced with, pretty much on a daily basis. So everything that you do for us, we really appreciate that. And, I know Grant County also appreciates it, so thank you. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. You guys want to come up?
Do a picture real quick.
Sure.
Don't be scared.
Thank you, man. guys.
Thank you, Commissioner Medina. What did I do to my computer? Okay, moving on to the next item of the agenda, presentations. Under C, presentation of detention center accreditation. Our detention center administrator, Mr. Andasola.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. I'm going to present the presentation on detention accreditation. Like I said on Tuesday, I think it's important to really describe and get into detail on the accreditation, what it means to the county, to the detention facility. I did also state that thanks to Commissioner Edward, who said that during our director's report a couple of work sessions ago that she thought it was a more detailed and something that we've worked really hard on in the last couple of years and are going to work hard now that we're going out for accreditation. So the following presentation is kind of a hybrid that we use for our staff to explain accreditation, because we do have a lot of new, younger staff that may not understand that. They may not see it like I do, since being here 22 years and going through the accreditation at the prisons. So this is kind of a hybrid of what we present to the staff, with some things deleted and some things added. Do I change the slide? Oop. Let me get my bearing. I think some bifocals are in my future.
It's not the worst thing.
Accreditation is a formal independent verification that a program or institution meets established standards and is competent to carry out specific assignments and tasks. And what the basic importance of accreditation is for the county, not only the county but the detention facility, is it's an assessment of the facility's strengths and weaknesses. An accreditation audit involves assessments that cover administration and management, the physical plant, institutional operations and services, and detainee programs also. It also assesses issues and concerns that may affect the quality of life of the facility, such as staff training, adequacy of medical services, sanitation, use of restrictive housing and detention, incidents of violence, crowding, offender activity levels, offender programs and provisions or basic services that impact the life, safety, and health of the detainees as well as the staff. And what it also does is establish measurables criteria for upgrading operations. Through the standards and accreditation process, agencies continue to review agency policies and procedures and have the ability to make necessary improvements when deficiencies are recognized. Part of the accreditation process is we have to update and review our facility policies every year. We have approximately 117 policies for our facility, which have to be reviewed every year and updated and have a proof that you've done that with your administrative staff. Also, it has performance-based benefits. Performance-based benefit standards provide data that can be used in the day-to-day management of the facility, reducing the occurrence of significant events. Accredited facilities may find it easier to recruit professional staff. Not only does compliance provide agencies with a cost-effective, proactive approach to its operations, but it can be used to justify requests for additional funding, improve staff training and development. Also, it continues to improve staff morale and professionalism. Accreditation is awarded to the best of the best in corrections field, and staff have a better understanding of its policies, procedures, and it contributes improved working conditions for staff. It also offers a safer environment for staff and offenders. Staff as well as offenders benefit from increased accountability, attention to physical plant issues, and security procedures. Whether a facility or program, the accreditation process ensures a clear assessment of the strengths and weaknesses of the facility. Also, it could be a defense against lawsuits. Accredited agencies have a strong defense against litigation through documentation and demonstration of good faith efforts to improve conditions of confinement. And what it also does is reduce liability insurance costs. As an incentive for agencies willing to participate in the accreditation program, Insurance companies often offer increased coverages, to which Association of Counties says accredited facilities get an additional $2 million of coverage for liability insurance. The adherence to national recognized standards for fire, safety, health, and training reduce claim expenses that can in turn result in savings on insurance premiums, which can more than offset the cost of the actual accreditation. Within the accreditation program for detention centers in New Mexico, there are 211 different standards on the following topics. Administration, 37 standards. Those standards explain that how detention facilities run, how the administrator is selected, who supervises the administrator, how the administration is set up, staffing plans, staffing analysis, your policies and procedures, how training is done, and so on. There's 37 standards in that. Physical plant has 9 standards, which could range from anything to plumbing to the size of the cell that the detainees are held in, to the size of the record they have for outdoor recreation activities, to actually temperatures of water, provide water, environmental controls, and so forth. Safety and sanitation has 15 standards, of course, which means access to water, showers daily, hygiene supplies, feminine products, and the list goes on. Security and control has 86 standards, and that's everything from checks on inmates to how handled incidents to use of forces. Medical and mental health, which are very important within the accreditation program, 47 standards. Not only how an inmate is intaken, but how often they have to be checked by medical and mental health, and if there's any issues, what has to be done in the documentation also. And then detainee programs has 17 standards. Some of the standard examples of these 211 are intake of detainees, how a detainee is intake, the process that has to be done, the beginnings of a detainee file and how they are stored and recorded of records, the medical care, how the detainee is intake by medical, how an assessment has to be taken place at time of intake, and how a full assessment has to be done 2 hours within 2 hours of the intake, and also how continuing care has to happen. And along with the medical services goes the mental health care, which also has to be done during intake, initial assessment, and continuing care. Food service, how many meals, the calories of the meals, so the storage of the food, the temperatures of the cooler, the refrigerator, how the food is stored, how you log information of the storing of food, detainee living areas, the size of the spaces, storage for detainee property, size for recreation, environmental controls, the temperature of the different areas the detainees live in, temperature of water that they use to shower or wash their hands, safety and sanitation, the cleanliness of the facility, make sure it has fresh paint. There's extermination services, that we follow fire and safety and fire suppression guidelines, that our generator is tested and also working order. We have our SDS chemical storage, restrictive housing, how we house inmates, how they have access to time out of their cell, how long we could keep them in their cell, and also PREA, which is your Prison Rape Elimination Act, providing safety from sexual abuse, and also restraints, how we use restraints, how we handcuff, when we can handcuff, when the restraints are used, if we have to do use of force report, how we review that use of force report, classification and orientation. When an inmate is booked into the facility, we have to give an orientation to the inmate, how services are worked in the facility, how they ask for things, and what they're to expect from medical and mental health. Advise of rights for their court processes through magistrate, municipal, and district. Recreation, each inmate has to have a certain number of recreations per day. Transports, how we handle transports for safety and security of the detainees and the staff. Training, not only for the staff, but for the contract staff and yearly refresher trainings. Programming for the inmates. Searches, how we have to conduct searches on the detainees and the areas of the facility. And of course, like I explained before, policies and procedures. Each section of these standards are broken down to individual standards, which creates the New Mexico Accreditation Standards Manual. That manual is available on the New Mexico County's website. There are only a few accredited facilities throughout the state. Currently within the state, there are 9 accredited facilities. Once approved to proceed with the accreditation, the initial accreditation is a 1-year proof of practice of each of those 211 standards, which must be accomplished in a 24-month time frame. The average length of an accreditation for the first time is between 12 and 18 months. To get reaccredited, is an accomplishment every 3 years in which you have to provide 3 years of proof of practice of each standard. The proof of practice is any policy or other form or documentation which could provide proof that that standard is being accomplished. It could be examples of proofs of practice are photos, receipts or contracts of various maintenance equipment or contract services, training files in which you train your officers and your contract staff, detainee files like I explained upon intake and release and storage of those files, logs to include rounds conducted checking on detainees, meals that are served and fed to detainees, showers that are given to detainees that are in individual cells, the temperature of the food, the temperature of the showers, and the temperature of the housing units. And also the policies and procedures that are updated and maintained through new changes in law and practice, staff interviews and detainee interviews. Examples of a standard of proof of practice is such as the standard on inmate suicide prevention, which ensures that facilities have a prevention program in place, staff are trained, and mental health is available to assist offenders with suicidal thoughts and or actions. This standard and our ability to provide proof that we do what the core standard outlines will assist in potential litigation, but more important, may save a life and do what's right in running the facility in a safe manner. And what I did is I put in that presentation a slide of the accreditation for the standard of mental health intake screening. So this basic standard right here, MM33, dictates how they have to screen upon intake of detainees. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just giving you a kind of an example of a proof. The next proof is MM34, our 14-day mental health assessment that has to be done on every detainee that's intake within 14 days of intake. And it kind of gives the brief outline of what has to be done by medical, and not only medical, but mental health. And if it triggers, they have to be referred for other services such as psychiatry. Again, mental health standards, M35, mental health referrals. What happens if during that initial assessment that they see things with mental health issues with the detainee, they have to be referred for other services, not only within the facility, for outside of the facility. And then lastly, M37, the security garments. If we do have a suicidal inmate, the standard clothing we have to give the detainee for security or medical risks, and also what has to be done with that detainee. With each of these 211 standards, you have to meet criteria and prove that you're doing that practice. Like I said, whether through documentation, photos, contracts, and such. Also, what I could explain next is how that process works. There are several county departments involved in accreditation. HR, we have to have practices in hiring, promotion, and background checks. HR has to do yearly background checks on every staff member. Maintenance, we have to have maintenance, provide generator maintenance, maintenance on the doors, checking the water temperature, paint the areas of some of the duties also, and just everyday functions for physical plant. Finance for detainee funds, and also access to the county attorney. When a facility goes out for accreditation, the facility as a whole is accredited from the officer to the contract staff as well as detainees. This is to ensure there is fair treatment in all safe and secure manner of all aspects of the facility. How this is accomplished. Accreditation becomes a way of life at the detention facility. It's not something that comes at the time of inspection. Each standard has a hard copy folder, which in turn is transferred to an electric system called Power DMS. This is where policies are highlighted, uploaded, and photos, logs, and contracts and other proof of practices is uploaded. Due to policies at times covering multiple standards, they need to be highlighted so the audit team could read the pertinent section and information for the standard that they're reviewing. Power DMS has streamlined the audit process, however, and the audit used to take 1 to 2 weeks on site with the facility with the team, where now the teams review all proofs of practice and have been uploaded prior to their arrival. So with the inclusion of Power DMS, what we're doing now is we're able to upload the proofs of practice for every one of the 211 standards into Power DMS, to which the audit team could log on there and review it before the on-site inspection. Before Power DMS, they'd come to the facility and spend approximately 2 weeks there going through the hard files of the proofs of practice, and then also their inspection of the facility. So now with Power DMS, it makes it easier because they could actually look from their offices or from where they're at, or their facilities, because some of the auditors work at other facilities, and take their time as we upload to look through those proof of practices. So then when their initial audit comes into the facility, they could spend maybe 2-3 days there. The thing that works with the accreditation is your proof of practice. Of course, you're going to look for documentation of that proof of practice to make sure you're doing it and have that proof of practice approved. However, when they come to the facility for that 2 to 3 days, what they're going to do in that facility is they're going to conduct an audit and inspection of the whole facility of those 211 standards. They'll go up and interview detainees about proofs and practices of the policy orientation, anything ranging from classification and recreation to meals to checks. They'll interview officers, and then they'll go through all 211 proofs of practice and pick random days or random weeks to go through that to prove that we're doing what we're supposed to that random day or that random week. So that's why it's important that it become a way of life daily, because you never know what day they're going to choose to provide that proof of practice. The way this is accomplished and what we've had is a lot of assistance and help from different accredited facilities. We do have an inspector in Doniana that's been doing it for 27 years. Captain Fleming has been a great help, and he helped develop this and develop our way to accreditation. And the way to do this is through an accreditation manager. An accreditation manager is manages the activities, data, records related to the accreditation program. This position gathers and analyzes the data, provides insight to support decision-making, plans and supports continuous improvement efforts to include the accreditation process as defined by the adult detention accreditation programs. That manager's essential job function is to oversee and manage the program, including providing leadership to the accreditation team and preparing the authority for reaccreditation. Like I stated, when you get accredited, your reaccreditation is 3 years after, and you have to provide 3 years of proof of practice. The manager works with the detention administrator, department heads, additional agencies, and contractors to ensure ongoing compliance with accreditation, including timely submissions of those compliance reports. They identify non-compliant issues and make recommendations to remedy non-compliance. They also participate in ongoing training and maintains an active role in the accreditation changes, because we do make changes throughout every year on the accreditation practices. Provides and facilitates training on accreditation-related topics, coordinates site visits, including the reviews with the assessment team, and conducts meetings with the stakeholders. They also develop, manage, and update current archived accreditation files and documents, those hard files I was talking about, demonstrating that the accreditation standards and measures have that proof of practice. They also prepare the annual accreditation compliance report. Once you're accredited, you have to provide a yearly report of the compliance report to the Accreditation Council. And you also have to post that on your county website. They also collect, monitor, and analyze the data specific to fire and safety and sanitation for measuring adherence to standards. Also recommended is we have a fire safety officer, which we're getting one certified, and we do have one. We have Corporal Rivera, who's volunteered to do his side duties as a fire safety officer. Ensures incident data is complete, consistent, air-checked, and properly reported. That way you can meet those accreditation standards. He reviews the data, report writing quality, provides recommendations and improvement, that conduct training to improve that report writing. Also coordinates the annual review of operation process and makes those recommendations, and analyzing performance measure process using the performance indicators, which are those standards. He also assists the warden and other administrative staff develop, research, and implement the general specific programs, activities, and policies and procedures. Manage and coordinates department activities related to the accreditation process. There's a lot of delegation in each department, from shifts to corporals to lieutenants to sergeants. Develops proofs for compliance for accreditation standards. Prepares those proofs and policy drafts, prepares written documentation reports, maintains them on that computer database, Power DMS. Develops and revises agency forms to follow the standards, coordinates those self-assessments on site, and tracks the submission of required reports, and works closely on staff with policy review as the warden updates the policy. That accreditation manager makes sure that he helps update the policies. Like I said, there's 117 that need to be updated yearly. We have to demonstrate a high degree of accuracy and detail-oriented. Practices regular conferences with the warden and command staff on planning, analysis, and accreditation and other matters. Attends meetings, conferences, stays up on the accreditation changes, laws, and modifications, and also maintains that proof of practice of files as required. For that second accreditation, once you get accredited, you have to make sure those proofs are held for the 3 years. As I remember in the prison, sometimes we'd be running around that third year looking for proofs of practice about 3 years ago, which was difficult to find. Staffing. Back in 2002, we did have an assessment done of our facility by Corrections Solutions Group. There had 3 recommendations. One of the recommendations was staffing, which I included here. It states during site visits, consultants reviewed staffing for all 4 shifts, met with administration, detention staff coverage analysis, which is also an accreditation standard, was discussed with us, and they make the following recommendations. Instead of a accreditation manager, they put compliance officer, establish a full-time compliance officer position to manage the detention center's accreditation process, policy development, revision, and other assignments, such as pre-air coordinator and other duties, which a lot of accreditation managers are also the program managers of the facility. Participation in the accreditation program is a challenging process with over 100 standards, which there's 211, and auditors will use these standards to assess the county's compliance, and the process takes several months from first-time applicants to receive full accreditation, and with evidence-based compliance records must be established for a minimum of 1 year, and not establishing a compliance position would place a workload of accreditation on an administration already stretched thin with current duties and would exacerbate the length of time to prepare for accreditation. Looking at and getting a lot of help from the other accredited facilities, Captain Fleming was able to provide this because he's a captain of accreditation in Doñana County, and also he's an accreditation inspector for the New Mexico counties. So Luna County, our neighbors next door, has the warden position, 2 deputy wardens, a deputy warden of operations, a deputy warden of admin and accreditation, 2 captains, 2 lieutenants, 1 lieutenant in training, 1 lieutenant in transport, and 2 sergeants. Doñana, which you got to remember is a lot bigger facility, has a warden, 3 captains, 6 lieutenants, 4 sergeants, which those 4 sergeants are 2 training, a classification, and transport. Chavez County, which is also accredited, has the warden, a major, 6 lieutenants, and 3 sergeants. Valencia County, who we work with a lot and work very well with, has the warden, the deputy warden, a major, 5 captains, 1 administrative sergeant. San Juan, a warden, deputy warden, 3 lieutenants, which do training, accreditation, classification, and admin, and 3 sergeants, which do classification, training, and transport. And Captain Fleming stated that within his years doing accreditation, he tries to pinpoint his hours of accreditation, and the accreditation management is approximately 500 to 700 hours a day in maintaining those files, documents of proofs, and an additional 200 hours performing compliance audits to make sure you're doing that daily task of those 211 audits. When this administration took over at the end of 2021, I thought it was important to get with the stakeholders, not only our staff, but with the county, with maintenance, with IT, and get together and develop a plan, what we needed to do and what we needed to be in the forward of the future. And basically what it come down to is coming to this accreditation standard. So we developed a 5-year plan, which we created in 2022, and we update it yearly. And what the plan consists of is a needs assessment broken down to a 5-year plan of action to slowly move forward with needs of the facility covering multiple areas, such as staffing, equipment, technologies, physical plant, training, compensation, recruitment, and retention. This 5-year plan was made with the goal of becoming accredited and maintaining accreditation by providing a succession plan for the facility and its administration. I'd really like to set us up to not only become accredited, but stay accredited and move forward and not make this facility better than it is today. And in the fact that knowing that in 3 years when I retire, that facility is going to be in better shape than when I was here, and move forward, they're going to be better than it was when I was here. The detention center and the county have made great progress and improvements in the investment to move the facility forward to where it is today, and these critical investments and important changes, the county can guarantee that the continued success and progress of the detention center for years to come. Thank you. I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Arnizola. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Just comment that really impressive work, amazing organization required to pull this off. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Chairman.
Commissioner Medina?
If you become accredited, is it gonna be difficult to maintain the accreditation? And is your staff on board to make sure you guys can maintain the accreditation?
The staff is on board. Like I said, we have a young, kind of new staff. They work hard. I know that I think one of the barriers to that is our staffing and retention, because sometimes we're kind of short-staffed. We're always hiring. We lose staff as upgrades to different, like law enforcement. I know Silver City PD's having a big push in pay and recruitment. 6 of our officers actually went and tried out for SCPD, so we'll see what happens in that area. I do know that the staff are willing to work hard. We did present this presentation to them. I think the accreditation process is difficult initially, but when you do break it down, you only have to provide 1 year of proof of practice and you have 2 years to do it. So it is accomplishable, but what you have to do, like I stated, is once you get that accreditation, it's a daily project and a daily work that you do every day, every second. And I think that's why it's important to have that accreditation manager, because not only is it your manager, but he's your quality control and compliance person too, because you need to do those checks and you have to do all 211 every day, because when the accreditation team comes in 3 years, you have to provide proof of practice for 3 years, and they could pick any day of any week of those last 3 years, and you have to provide that you've been doing it for those 3 years of that day. It is workable and it is doable. We just have to get that staff in the training and in the mode to just continuously do it and check and have the reasons and understanding why we do things, to which this PowerPoint gives a good explanation. We do have a good staff. They're young. They do work hard. They try hard. But again, sometimes when we have those good officers, we often lose them, which will always support your dreams to move upward and onward and go to college or be whatever you want to be, whether it's a doctor, a lawyer, a probation, parole, law enforcement. But I think we have to really work hard on the retention aspect also to make it want to stay at the facility and carry on, so that we have that succession plan moving forward as those retirements happen within our administration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Billings?
I too want to thank you for taking this on. It's a ambitious project, and a lesser person would just be looking at their retirement, not tackling something this monstrous. But do appreciate your work. So you presented the staffing breakdown, or whatever you want to call it, of 5 facilities. Could you remind me what your staffing is like, and then how would that change or how would you suggest that would change, or would there be changes for accreditation purposes?
Currently, we have myself, the warden. We have 2 lieutenants, a lieutenant of operations, a lieutenant of administration, the training sergeant, and that's our admin for the facility. I do know that part of that assessment for that in 2022 with, I guess I missed that part of the assessment, but it said that we should get a corporal for a field training officer. We've already done that. We do have one of our corporals filling in for field training officer. As we look in our succession plan, I think we're trying to get her certified and learning, that way she could take over training when Sergeant Galino retires. So we are working on that succession plan. I do know that we're a smaller facility, and like I said, we want to be fiscally responsible. So looking at that and talking to recommendations and talking with our admin staff and some of the accreditation board members, the only change I really want to make is have that captain's position, which would be the accreditation manager / programs manager. They basically handle the accreditation piece of it, and also programs such as the RISE program. I know that we're looking at the IGNITE, and then we're also looking at bringing programs back to facility to pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, that program room was busy from noon to 8 o'clock at night, and then when COVID hit, we had to stop that, and we're slowly bringing programs back. So that's something that the captain would do, is run the programs and run the accreditation program, which a lot of those facilities that included in that report, that's what their captain, major, or deputy warden actually do, is they run their accreditation in the programs part. And some of them also do the PREA.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Andesula.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. You have a good day. And I also just like to remind you that you guys are invited tomorrow for lunch about 12:30 to conclude our Corrections Week celebration with our annual barbecue for our staff, which we do awards for Supervisor of the Year, Officer of the Year. And we do have a drawing that each officer gets something from the pick that we have. So you guys are invited, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item D under presentations, it's going to be a presentation on the vocational center. Dr. Manzanares, Mr. Mathis, and Mr. Holguin. You're on.
Buenos días.
Buenos dias.
Actually, we're here to answer questions that you may have. As some of you, all of you know, we are Western. The button. All right, there we go. I will sing a song now. Buenos dias, Harry, Commissioner. We are here to answer questions that you may have on the plan, the idea, the initiative actually, to build a career and technical education center in the mining district. Some people call it a vocational center. We'll accept both terminologies at this point. We are looking at two properties, one that both are in the mining district, one that it has nothing in there, and the cost of it is upwards of $30 million. The other is the armory in Santa Clara, and that the cost is between 5 and 7 million. With me are Assistant Vice President for Facilities and Maintenance, Kevin Mathis, and the Director of Capital Projects, Mr. Joseph Olguin, to help us hopefully answer any questions that you may have, Commissioners, on this project, on this initiative. We are looking for funds both at the state level and at the national level, in conversations with our congressional delegation, well actually our representative from District 2 and our two senators about the possibility of building this regional center. We have received, we haven't heard a no yet from anyone, including the representatives from the towns where this is going to be located, from the counties where this have been located, well, the counties that are supporting this initiative, including Catherine, Hidalgo, and Luna. And Grant, as per last year's support that we got for that, and the renewal of those supports from some other representatives for the Santa Clara Center also. So if you have any questions on that, the facilities that we have, by the way, at Western are full, and we want to expand also the offerings in terms of the technical education. We are in conversations with both districts, Cobre and Silver, to create a consortium, if you will, to be able to carry this through. Anything else you want to add in terms of the? No, you left me alone. Anyways.
I would say that,
No, just kidding.
just so the commission and the group knows, we spent the better part of 2 years meeting with both school districts, the county, the village of Santa Clara, the town of Hurley, town of Baird, town of Silver City. We put a pretty big, as Dr. Manzanares talked about, a consortium together to try to get everybody we needed at the table. The one thing that was really encouraging that we found was that both school districts have polled their students and found a renewed great interest in vocational and technical programs. So I came from the mining industry before I was at Western, and I experienced that drought of technical skill. There's a big demand. There's a lot of money that can be made by young people. And there was, like I said, there's a renewed interest from young people that hasn't been there traditionally over the last decade. So our goal is to put this package together so that we can benefit the entire area.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, members. So just wanted to give kind of a high-level rundown of where we are in the sense of the funding that we've received so far, the work that we performed, and then thank you. And then kind of give an overview of where we're hoping to go, of course, to align with the institution's vision. So we received $260,000 from Senate Bill, I believe it was 212. And with that, we went ahead and performed, again, as Kevin alluded to, a very comprehensive master plan. And we're really trying to get the idea of building the best facility we can within the mining district to provide opportunity for anywhere from youth to non-traditional students, as folks maybe that have children already, or minors that are trying to further their career path. And so we visited the CTEC Center in Hobbs. We visited Santa Fe Community College and C&M's facilities. So we're trying to do extensive research, or we did do extensive research, I should say, to make sure we are getting all these best ideas together to put into one facility. And with that, we looked at constructing a facility just outside of Baird. That is approximately the $30 million ask that we're looking for to build this center. As Dr. Manzanares alluded to, we're also doing an architectural assessment right now of the armory in Santa Clara. In fact, today I'm meeting with architects to as-built that. And so we just want to make sure that whatever investments we're putting forth, that it'll benefit the community as a whole. Of course, not just for Silver City, but the whole mining district and the county as a whole, and then our neighboring counties as well. And then I believe out of that funding source, a component of that, we also hired a consultant to help us do an evaluation of the needs and demands for those things to support Kevin's perspective and saying, these are the needs, these are the potential jobs, this is the potential salary, and so we're working on getting a comprehensive study for that as well. So we're hoping to have that report in the next few months, is my understanding. So we'll stand for further questions.
Thank you. One of the questions, and I hope the commissioners help me out with this, is I guess a couple of meetings ago is the funding as to once this, and I'm going to think positive, once this happens and we have our building up and we have these different programs going, the funding to keep it running, is that, is it from the university's budget with state, or how is that? That was one of the questions.
That will come from the university's budget. It is part of the general instruction fund that we get from the legislature. So that is a recurring cost that is budgeted from the university, or will be budgeted when we have the place to where we're going to do the teaching, so to speak. That's part of what we do. That's part of our funding that will alleviate that expenditure.
Okay. There was another question that I can't remember what it was. Do any of you remember?
I have several, but I don't remember if any of them are ones we brought
Go
up
ahead, you
before.
might hit one.
Okay, yeah, one of them might be it, for sure. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all for being here for the presentation. I think this whole commission has expressed interest in career development in this area. We agree with you about the enormous benefits, both to the young people that you mentioned and to the community as a whole. There's a pretty severe shortage of tradesmen. So my first one, you can tell me when I hit the right button. My first one is, what programs do you envision offering?
Thus far, we have, for example, I'll just tell you what we have. We have welding, we have electrical, we have construction now, we revived that, and there is an explanation for this kind of programs. The question is, and I will continue, the question is, once we saturate the labor market, what do we do? Because we invest a lot on those things. We kind of put it on the file, develop new programs that are in need in terms of the workforce that is needed, and when there is a lack for, let's say, more welders, we bring back the welding. We never canceled the programs, because if we cancel it, then we have to go through a whole internal process to bring it back, and then some at the state level. But anyways, we have welding, electrical, we are back in construction. The health programs we are developing, phlebotomy, pharmacy tech will be going on this coming fall. We are looking also at plumbing. We are looking at high-end welding. We actually worked with Freeport and they have given us stations, about 8 of them, to improve our welding offerings and make sure that our students get their national and international certifications. And those are industrial welding, also underwater welding, and that kind of stuff, which are well-paid jobs. So we are looking at that. We are also looking at, I forgot the term.
HVAC, mechanical.
HVAC in general also. So those are the things that we are looking at. It's going to be a heavy investment on that too. The equipment to do that is very expensive, as I have seen it. I have gone to San Juan College, and I'm like Director Warden Andazola. We look at community college that really have a lot of stuff, and then they would come here, and we cannot offer it everything, but we understand what the needs are, I think.
That was a pretty extensive list. And so the estimates that you gave of the cost of the facilities don't include the expensive equipment you just mentioned? That's in addition, okay. And you called it a regional training center, and then you mentioned the four-county region. Is that your main target audience, as it were?
It's the four counties, As you know, the closest community college we have is in Las Cruces, and that's still a distance from many of this. So the new technologies allowed us to be more regional than before, because some of the theoretical aspects can be done online, and the practicum, obviously, at the potential center.
You described the costs, and comparing what you mentioned for the Armory to what you mentioned for the location outside of Baird, sounds a lot more feasible at the Armory, but there must be downsides if you're thinking of both. Can you describe very broadly, you don't need details, why you would consider paying 4 times the cost for the Baird version compared to the Armory?
So, thank you for the question. At the time that we were working through that, it was, and it still is, a very strong partnership with Freeport to support WNMU and that being Freeport. So we wouldn't actually be purchasing the land in that case. They were talking about donating that to us. So that was really one aspect of it. The other thing that we knew was going to come up was, or that we'd heard later on after we had started that master plan, was the potential that they'd be interested in selling the Armory. So that's really why that secondary thought came up. I think if that was available at the first part of that probably would have been something we would pursued early on, but it's also making sure that those numbers align and the university that's feasible. And being that there was so much congressional money out there for to build or produce these trades, that was really the biggest aspect of that. That was really why we were looking at that. I don't know, I can't speak for what the county's looking at as far as new construction cost per square foot, but I mean, it's extremely high. And so after we did that initial assessment, that purchase of the Armory definitely looks more attractive if that's doable, if the university can afford.
Part of that, Commissioner Brown, too, is the meetings I've been involved, is the room for expansion. You know, Freeport has, you know, generously, I can't even say it, but you know what I mean. They have, you know, put up 35 acres, you know, and some of the idea with that piece would be expansion in the future into a CDL course, because there's plenty of room there. The other thing with Santa Clara, what's being looked at is, yes, you can get the building and what it's on, but some of the acreage around that, it belongs to others. So, you know, the expansion piece would have to go, and the goal has been to try to buy some of that area so it can go up against county land that's their baton. And so they're looking at that too, but the biggest thing is the expansion. Yeah, there's a big difference between $30,000 and I believe it was anywhere between what, 5-8 million, I mean $30 million to between 5 and 8 at the Armory. Now the Armory is the expansion. You know, we looked at that. You know, it has some work that needs to be done, and probably about $7 million of work. So that's the reason we're looking at this other area.
That's what I was curious about, if the renovation, remodeling, whatever costs, adapting the building to this use.
Yeah, the last meeting we
As
had,
much
I
as the
think
building itself.
that figure came out to, you know, I believe the negotiation was about 1 million for Santa Clara Armory, and the other 5, 6 million has been for, you know, getting things
That's
up,
part of it.
up
Okay.
to make it work. Sorry, Mr. O'Neill.
Well, you answer it for us, so we don't have to swallow saliva anymore.
All right, I guess I'll only have one more. I don't think I've hit the one you're thinking of. What's the role for the county?
Whatever role you want to have. Honestly, and whatever help we can get. And specifically, in certainly your support, in for us to be able to secure funds elsewhere too, both from the federal government and the state. But more specific than that, I cannot tell you at this point because there are so many. Well, I don't know. If you want to pay the $1 million for the armory, we'll be happy to acquire. So, honestly, whatever help you guys can help us and also guide us in terms of the location, and also in your advice about what you feel also are the needs in the county. I cannot ask you to tell us about what Catron needs, but certainly Grant County to begin with, and that's the best answer I can give you at this point.
If you remember,
Y te lo digo en español si quieres.
Está bien.
Okay.
also, if you remember, when we did our capital outlay, 2-3 years ago, we had asked for $5 million, and that was more of a discussion with former mayor.
Sorry.
No,
Richard Bausch.
no, former mayor Chon Fierro. Gee, I'm sorry. Chon Fierro, and what was going to happen while we asked for those $5 million is to see if we can secure state money to help with the infrastructure, running water, sewer, et cetera, to that 35-acre parcel. So that was it. Now, sitting back and looking at some of this, if it's decided to go to Santa Clara, I'd still like to see us as supporters put it back on ICIP, maybe not 1, 2, but get it in there, so we can help secure some funding also to partner with this, because as you heard all the programs, we're really hurting in Grant County for plumbing, electrical, and we have great people out there, but at the end of the day, there's so many of them that can go around. I think Dr. Shepard had mentioned cosmetology also, things like that. Now the welding from your general day-to-day, and Mr. Mathis knows this, is from the mine to, being out here is different, because now you're looking at stainless steel. Now you're welding on truck bed shovels, and that's a lot thicker, and that takes a little bit more, and they do a great job up there, but when somebody retires or leaves, it's very difficult for them to come in. My past experience with that has also been when we have applicants and they fail the 3G test because it breaks, it's hard to get people to come in. So that's part of it too, so.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Bill.
Yeah, I want to thank Commissioner Ponce for taking the lead on this early on, starting 2 years ago, and Dr. Shepard, Freeport McMoran, and certainly you guys. It's nice to get caught up on the work that you've done. I think in answer to what you're wanting from the county, from what I've heard sitting in on the meetings that Commissioner Ponce has organized with Dr. Shepard and the legislators, I think what they want, what we've been told they want, is a united front, not just for Grant County, Silver City, and the mining district mayors, but and councils, but also the surrounding counties, because they want this to be a regional center. They don't want to, the state doesn't want to fund, probably the governor specifically. I think that's what, I didn't hear that from her, but I heard that's what her request was, that they don't want to build one of these in every county. So we needed to get a letter of support from Catron County, Luna County, and then get Hidalgo County on board. And so that when we're turning in our request for capital outlay, all of those groups and entities are on board and supporting this, so that it's not just, if we're asking for $7 million or $30 million, we're gonna need a lot of united support. So anyhow, again, thank you, Dr. Manzanares, and and both of you for your efforts.
Thank you, and just an added, I don't think I added a line here. Lieutenant Governor Morales and President Shepard and some of us have met also, that's the latest. And Lieutenant Governor is willing, want to also help us secure funding from the state. And as some of you might know, he has always been in favor of creating, at the time when he was a senator and before, a vocational center in Greene County. So this is something that he was very receptive and is very receptive and help us create this consortium with the schools primarily, but also to help us in the legislature and with the governor, hopefully, to secure the funding or some of it or most of it from the state. It's just an update rather that I wanted to share with you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you for bringing that up, and I erroneously, I said legislators, I didn't mention Lieutenant Governor Morales. He was sitting in on some of the meetings that we attended, or he's driving and on the phone and very attentive that way, and I do appreciate his support. I think what I've heard from the discussion is that we're all on the same page. We'd like to stop exporting our kids and grandkids from Grant County to where they can go and make a living. And when there's actually jobs here where we're importing other people's children, and you're starting to see my age by this discussion, children and grandchildren, to do our work here, and they're getting the good paying jobs, and they're coming from all over the United States and the world, when we could do this locally and provide jobs so our kids and grandkids could stay here. I certainly endorse this training center, and I think all I've heard is positive support for it if it can be done in an economical manner, and I think it'll be a really good boost to our economy and to the families here. So you've got my full support, and I think I've heard nothing but full support from everyone.
Thank you. And I'm just keeping adding, but cut me off when it's. We are working on certification with the Forest Service also. And as some of you know, we have a grant from the federal government on urban forestry. And that certification is part of what we promise in terms of getting the workforce that the Forest Service also needs. So that's being funded already through this grant. We got, $5 million to do this. And so also in your communities, very soon, Maribel Medel, who works for us, will be contacting somebody here and to have a meeting to see where you need trees. Okay, so we are committed to planting 1,000 trees, and so we'll need your help in terms of where you might want those. But anyways, I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioners, anything else? Thank you. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Moving on to next item on the agenda is the elected official reports. Madam Clerk, do you guys have any report? Okay. Sheriff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I present to you my report for the month of April. In the month of April, the Sheriff's Office responded to a total of 1,558 calls for service. We investigated 31 crashes. We initiated 102 reports. Out of those calls, we had 15 domestic violence calls. We had 20 alarm calls. We did investigate 3 mental health complaints. We had 6 embezzlements and fraud. We did 60 welfare checks and 47 animal complaints. Pretty much the Sheriff's Office has been running smooth. I just want to report that since I took over in 23, we were down 11 deputies. proud to report as of today, we're down 2. So the staffing has really come back, and we've been doing a lot more with the staffing that we have. And I do want to thank you, the commission, and the manager for diligently working to try and help us recruit and retain staffing that we have. We do have a resident deputy out in Cliff and a resident deputy out in Mimbres, which has been positive for the community. A lot of appreciation from those communities having the staffing out there. And I just want to thank my staff for everything they do on a day in and day out. We've been extremely busy dealing with several things, preparing for upcoming events that are coming up. Graduations are here for the high schools. The college, we have Blues Fest coming up. We just took care of the Tour of the Gila. We also have the rodeo coming up, which is going to keep us a little busy. And then summer's coming, so a lot of the lakes are going to be pretty much full from out-of-towners and locals going out there. So we'll be doing quite a bit of patrols out in the area. I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of the deputies are out doing a lot of work. We are currently working an operation from a grant that we received from the governor's office in regards to warrant backlog. That grant was funded through the DA's office, and the DA's office had a backlog of warrants that needed to be served, and we have participated in that. We've been doing that for the last month. It ends in the end of June, and as soon as I get all the stats and totals of what we accomplished with that grant, I'll be happy to report that to you all. But the staff has really been working hard out there, doing a good job, and I commend them and thank them for everything they do on a daily basis. Other than that, I have nothing else to report unless you have any questions.
Do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Okay. So moving on to next item is going to be approval of the minutes for April 9th, 2024 work session minutes, April 11th, 2024 regular meeting minutes, and April 23rd, 2024 regular minute meetings. I'd like to make a motion to approve those minutes. Also, I believe in one of them we had a executive session, so only the items on the agenda were discussed and no action was taken, I believe.
Second.
Okay, so I have a second by Commissioner Billings. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Moving on to financial reports. Under item H, consideration of expenditure report dated April 30th, 2024.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the expenditure report as presented.
Second.
So a motion by Commissioner Brown, and second by Commissioner Medina. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Item I, consideration of quarterly report FY 2025 third quarter.
Move to approve.
Second.
So a motion by Commissioner Medina, second by Commissioner Billings. Do we have any discussion?
Shout out to Andrea Montoya for her work on that.
Yeah.
Outside of her normal job duties.
Yep, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Under new business, it's gonna be under J, consideration of donation from Luna County for a 2009 Ford Transport Van, E31H. Do we have Chevy Nueva, or you guys just wanna go ahead and go with the motion?
I'm fine going with the motion.
Go with the motion? So-
Move to approve.
Second.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Medina, second by Commissioner Billings. Any discussion?
Thank you, Luna County and Sheriff Villanueva for arranging that.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Under item K, consideration of delinquent solid waste account subject to lien from the Treasurer's Office.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the delinquent solid waste accounts as presented.
Second.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Billings. Do we have any discussion?
I guess just a question, but they're not here to answer. I don't know if there have been any changes. Often there are changes in the last couple days, as people realize. But I assume we're approving the same list we got Tuesday.
No, So there were, I asked him this morning and he said there were 88 that you're approving. So you're just approving the one subject to, that was the initial list that he provided you,
Yeah.
but I did ask him this morning, there's 88.
Okay. And I'll make my motion to approve the updated list.
Thank you. So, do we need a second? Yeah, I'll second. Okay, so I have a motion by Commissioner Brown, second by myself. Do we have any further discussion? See none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on to item L, consideration of Grant County Courthouse project submitted by the Sixth Judicial District Court.
We had discussion before a motion. Is that acceptable to you, Mr. Chair?
That's acceptable to me.
Okay, no reason to move and then have to take it back. So, my understanding is, we can approve a planning and design project, and that we need to do so by the end of the month. Is that correct? And so we could do this at the second meeting in May. So I wanted to set that out for one thing. Second, the question we'll be facing then is, are we asking for a planning design on a remodel with an expansion of the existing courthouse, or on a new facility where the old jail is? And we were presented with these options. One was a total of roughly 9.2 million, the other was around 18 million, and we'd be responsible for half the cost. So, to start on the question of whether we could even consider the new facility, which is $9 million for us and $9 million for the courts. And with the permission of the county manager, I contacted our financial advisor, Mark Valenzuela, with Bosque Advisors, and he ran some preliminary numbers. And he wants to emphasize preliminary. I didn't give him much time because we didn't have much time. And due to last minute miscommunication, he ran them for the whole project rather than for the half that's the county. But you can divide by half, you can divide by two. We have already approved $4 million in general obligation bonds for facilities. And his memory was the same as mine, although again, he hadn't verified it, that we haven't sold facilities bonds. That's, the manager agrees. So we have already approved $4 million. If we were to sell those now, according to Mr. Valenzuela, we would have to increase property taxes to cover our debt payments by roughly half. You know what? I'm going to get his email so I don't misspeak, if you'll give me a moment. He was very kind to do this in a quick way. So half a mil increase in property taxes would cover $4 million that we've already approved. On top of that, then, if we were to do the larger project, he would recommend doing it with a bond backed by gross receipts taxes. And to fund 14 million, he says we would need roughly 0.25% increase in GRT, so 2 increments. But since we don't have to do all 14 million, our part would be roughly 5 million, not 14. We're talking less than 1/8 of an increment for the county on GRT to do the bigger project. So it is a tax increase, but frankly, it's not as much of a tax increase as I was expecting him to come back and tell us. That's the brief summary. I'm going to support tabling this because we need to really digest these figures a lot better. This is off, quick calculation. But it did say to me that both projects are feasible. And that we should consider both in deciding which planning and design contract to seek. Does that make sense?
It does. County Manager, did you have something?
I just want, as a reminder, one of my concerns when we talk about the increase in the property tax, that's how we sell these bonds to the public, is we ensure them that we're going to leave their property tax rates the same and that we're not going to increase them. And I think that's a key point of how we've been able to sell those bonds as successfully as we have. And in a way that's kind of going back and saying, well, we were just kidding. We are going to raise your taxes. So that would just be my concern, looking at it from that aspect. Just want to share that.
So the thing I have is, and refresh my memory, and I know Mr. Hernandez talked about this a little bit. There's $10 million out there also that for the court systems. Now,
That's this
my
funding.
question to that we're gonna apply for, correct?
That's this funding.
That's this fund, right?
That's what we would be asking for planning and design money for.
We still have to fund it 50%. That's what that is the fund.
So to be clear, that, you're talking about 750,000? I should remember from Tuesday.
So I can't remember.
We can look.
And we would have to come up with half of that?
750?
It's like 753 or something, right,
Yeah,
Randy?
753.
Okay. For the planning and design?
That's just, yes, for, that number may fluctuate a little bit. This is the numbers that Mr. Cavani provided to us if we were to move forward with the construction. So that would include his architectural fees for it. I don't know if the planning and design may be a little bit less because we're just now at this point probably looking to phase it out, right? Get the planning and design done and have a shovel-ready project, and then a separate funding application in the future for construction with whatever route was decided. But yes, for the numbers that have been presented to us, $753,593 is what's been put on paper to us.
You would be really close at that when you look at how he's broke out his fees. You wouldn't have the as-builting, which is minimal, but you still, the record drawings would go away. You'd probably save some on travel, but that's all less than 10,000. So you would probably be safe in asking for somewhere in the vicinity of 750,000.
So, yeah, I'm sort of like thinking about, I can't remember what a lot of it was, but I'm not saying that I would be for it, number one, but if we were to raise our taxes, what would we be left if we have to, or we encounter something else or another emergency, to go back to the public and say, hey, that I understand what the courthouse needs, and I understand the security, I understand that, but at the end of the day, we need to look at the whole county and what's gonna benefit the whole county, and we also have to look at what emergencies we may face too. So where does that leave us, do you know?
That's a loaded question.
Well, you don't have to answer it, but those are my
Thank you,
thoughts.
but I think in a roundabout way, you just answered it. And yes, we would be limited and going back to the public again, and ask them for another tax increase, for
Right.
something that we didn't anticipate right now, and we go to them and ask for them to build a new courthouse.
See, and that's where I'm at is, we always like to leave room for things that can come up and happen. We put all our eggs in the basket for a courthouse and something else happens. I'm not too comfortable with that, and then going back every year to, our citizens and saying, hey, we want to raise taxes again, that doesn't sit well.
I think you have a legitimate concern. I was just having a discussion last evening with a school board member, and we heard from Mr. Hawkins, they're wanting to get that tax base up so that they can get matching funds from the state. So that's one thing.
And that's a lot more than $500,000.
Right, yeah, so they're promoting
Yeah.
that. There's just a multitude when you get, it's been talked about taxes for the hospital at some point, and we've got this detention center. There's always needs out there, so I'm thinking you're probably right, we don't wanna put all our eggs in one basket.
Well, I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, I'm through.
You know, and then I'm thinking, I really don't know what Cobury Consolidated Schools are gonna do. Then you have the Silver Consolidated Schools going this way, so you have two. Then we put in a competing agency in there, which is Grant County. And then down the road, eventually, there's a possibility, we may need to either expand or do something with the hospital. So we're throwing certain things at our public that just keeps climbing and climbing. County Manager?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Randy and I was chatting a little bit, and this was why I threw out the, apply for planning and design, and perhaps we apply for planning and design funds for both, and then you have a choice. So if we can get it funded to plan and design both, then we have a closer, then we have more than just a preliminary estimate.
Yes.
We know that you're really looking at 20 million, or you're really only looking at 5 million, or whatever that may be. So we could apply that way for planning and designing, and write it in a manner to which we could plan and design both. And then you would have a shovel-ready project when you go and apply for more funds, and then that gives us some time to figure out where do we piece this 50% from, just an idea.
I was actually gonna ask that question, if that's a possibility. My thought on there is then you're kind of wasting half of the 750,000 with the two projects, but maybe that's not the case.
But then it gives you an answer.
Yeah.
It gives you the information to make an informed decision.
Commissioner Medina?
Ms. Manager, quick question. So I just heard Commissioner Brown say there's gonna be a tax increase, and maybe I didn't understand you correctly. There is gonna be a tax increase associated with either project that we take. So Chairman Ponce made some comments on
Well,
Tuesday.
no, there could be, in order to come up with it, there possible.
Okay.
Not
Okay.
either project.
Okay, I just misunderstood both of you. I was trying to listen, maybe I just misunderstood you wrong. Chairman Ponce made some comments on Tuesday about the old building that's in place right now. And you take a ride up there and you actually look at the building, and it's impressive. And what happens with the old building if we do decide to go with the new structure? What do we do with this building? Does it become a hotel? Does it become an empty building? What happens to it?
That's a good question.
We're gonna invest a lot of money, and then what happens when these people say that they want money for renovation?
Can I take?
Sure.
I mean, we did discuss that on Tuesday. One thing that was left out of Tuesday's discussion is that the entire third floor is occupied by the DA's office. And if I were them, I would choose better offices. I don't know if you've been to their offices. It's very, very crammed up there. So it's not like it would be totally vacant. And then I think, personally, what I said is I thought we had other offices that would be better housed here than on, for example, Silver Street. Some of those on Silver Street are going to be moving to the emergency services building, so those are already taken care of. I mean, to me, that's all part of planning and design. We would have to answer that question. But it wouldn't become a private building, a hotel.
I just think it
Part of
it
my
is-
idea is I want to save it, right?
Yeah.
And I want to save it like that and not have somebody try to build onto it and save it. That's the lower cost option, is somebody building onto it.
So, the other part that's scary to me, and I hate to bring it up, but it's part of being the transparency piece here, is, there's a good possibility, and I understand it, and I don't understand it sometimes. There's a good possibility, just because of what Grant County's going through and what our planning director, Mr. Hernandez, brought up with Colonias, that those projects may be pushed back a month. Now, do we have, and this is a question, you know, what percentage of those colonias projects come out of our pocket also. If we're a year behind, those costs are gonna increase, which means our cost also increases for our match. You know, those are the things that we need to look at is where we at. We have quite a few projects, you know, you have, Little Walnut, you have all that. So those are the things we need to also look at is where are we gonna be in a year?
Well, even addition onto that, we just talked to Western and we just told them that we're 100% committed to them, and where's that money gonna come from now? You know, we just told them we're all behind you, but now we're looking at this 10, 15, $20 million project.
And then we have things come up like the next item on the agenda. I know how Commissioner Brown feels about it, but, you know, my heart says, you know, we committed to this, our government committed to that. We need to figure something out. So I don't know which way to go, Commissioners. I really don't. I mean, to me, I'm in favor of tabling this and thinking more about it.
So this has to be decided by the end of the month, right?
Yes. Due on June 3rd.
Huh?
It's due on June 3rd, correct?
Could we have a executive session prior to the next meeting? So we can bring all the ideas to the table before we make a decision?
Can't talk about this in executive session.
Executive session, you mean special meeting?
A special meeting or something
We
that
could
we
have a
could,
public meeting about that.
that we could discuss this a little bit more in detail, because
Well, I thought we were gonna put it on, give us time to think, put it, our special meeting at the end of the month to discuss it. We can't, I don't think we can't put something like this in executive session. But, you know, what I could encourage is folks come into public input
a public input, yeah.
for our last meeting of the month and give us their ideas and their
Yeah.
thinking. I think somebody had mentioned, I thought I heard about the public's input. You know, I don't know. Was it you? Yeah.
I just think it'd be a good idea, because, I mean, we've got some big things coming, and that the vocational center is a big thing for the community. That's needed. That is really needed. This is needed. You're right, we got the hospital, we got the schools. I mean, Cobra Schools put it that they're talking about meal increases just to build. Silver's talking, you know, so.
You guys feel comfortable just bringing this up again on 20, whatever it was,
Absolutely.
23rd,
Yeah.
24th, 1st? Man, I keep missing.
When is it?
If that gives them enough time, yeah.
Anything else, Commissioners? Okay,
Move to table until our next special meeting.
Second.
okay, I have a motion to table by Commissioner Brown, a second by Commissioner Medina. Do we have any further discussion?
This is a good discussion.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, moving on to item M is consideration of funding for Baton Parks Veteran Walking Path Project.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second. Let's have a motion by Commissioner Medina, second by Commissioner Ponce. Discussion?
So to be clear, you're moving to approve
Us covering the
200-some thousand. Was it?
208,000 something, I believe.
Oops, I clicked on the wrong thing. And are we directing where it's coming from?
I was hoping our county manager would figure that one out, or our deputy county manager.
So we do have some funding in a capital projects fund, or we could take it from the LATCF funding, which that would probably be my suggestion. That would be the easiest.
And if we don't specify, you have the authority to make that decision.
If you give me that authority.
Okay, well, then we need to specify if you need it. I don't know
I
what
would prefer to-
LATCF rules are.
I would just, the LATCF we can use for anything but lobbying, and that's the fund that I ask you to be able to use for infrastructure and things like this that come up, that it won't hit our general fund. So that would be my recommendation, is to pull it from there.
Can we add that to the motion?
Sure. That the funds do come from LATCF?
So that we approve and the funding come from LEPF?
LATCF.
LEPF. And, okay, yeah, my second stand, I guess.
Cool.
Any further discussion? See none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Moving on to item N, consideration of asset deletion transfer request number 5.
Move to approve.
Second?
So a motion by Commissioner Billings, second by Commissioner Brown. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Moving on to agreements, consideration of Agreement A-24-14. That would be an MOU with 6th Judicial District Court for pretrial services.
Move to approve.
I'll second. So a motion by Commissioner Medina, second by me. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So we tabled P and Q, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, moving on to item R, consideration of Agreement A-24-17, mutual aid for fire, rescue, and EMS with Catherine County.
Move to approve.
Second.
So a motion by Commissioner Billings, second by Commissioner Medina. Do we have any discussion?
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Manager, did the fire chief, the county fire chief involved in this, the MOU? I just want to make sure that we don't dump all our system into assisting them and something happens here, such as a wildfire or something like that.
Right, so Scott and Roger were involved in reviewing
Perfect.
this, and the language didn't change.
Perfect, thank you.
So we made a motion and all that discussion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to resolutions. It's consideration of resolution R-24-25. It's authorizing the submission of an application to the New Mexico Administrative Office of Courts for Great County Courthouse project.
Move to table.
To table, yes.
Sorry, you were
Yep,
gonna say that?
Yes, I was.
Then I'll second Mr. Medina's motion.
Okay, so I have a motion by Commissioner Medina to table, second by Commissioner Brown. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries the table. Next item on the agenda is consideration of resolution R-24-26, Sahila Mimbres Senior Center Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan for FY 2026 through 2030.
So moved for approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Billings, second by Commissioner Medina. Do we have any discussion?
Just, I can't believe we're talking about 2030.
Yeah, I'm kidding. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Moving on to bids and requests for proposal, RFPs. Consideration of RFP 24-06, Brownsville cleanup project.
Chair, I move approval of the proposal submitted by One Priority Environmental Services.
Second.
So a motion by
Oh,
Commissioner.
I'm so sorry. That's what I get for going too fast. They were the first mentioned, but actually the suggestion is that we award to Southwest Hazard Control. I was reading in the wrong order.
Okay. So the motion is to approve
That was close.
for Southwest Hazard Control to be awarded this project, correct?
Yes, Southwest.
That was close.
And Commissioner Billings had the second?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Moving to item V, consideration of RFP 24-7, architectural services.
Make a motion to approve.
And on these, we usually specify the
Oh.
the vendor, so it's in the minutes, but mine's not loading.
Yeah, mine's frozen too.
It
Have it open?
was NCA. It was NCA Architect was our recommendation, but mine's froze too.
Make a motion to approve NCA architect. There we go. So,
Okay, who has a second?
I'll second that.
So a motion by Commissioner Medina, second by Commissioner Brown. Any discussion? You know, I'm having trouble remembering Tuesday. What was this one for? I cannot.
Architectural services? It's for an on-call architect. Where projects like the courthouse, Gila Community Center, the Aldo Building,
I got it. I remember
those-
now.
Yeah, so it's a 4-year contract.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Moving on to item W, consideration of RFP 24-04. It's a comprehensive plan consult.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the recommendation for Bohannon Houston.
Second.
So a motion by Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Medina. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, if I can have a motion to recess as a Grant County Board of Commissioners and convene as a Grant County Health Care Claims.
So moved.
Second.
So motion by Commissioner Brown and a second by Commissioner Billings. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we're the county health care claims. Under item X, consideration of health claims dated March 24th in the amount of $113.35.
I move that we approve that amount.
Second.
So a motion by Commissioner Billings, second by Commissioner Medina. Do we have any discussion? See none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. If I can have a motion to adjourn as a Grant County Healthcare Claims Board
So moved.
and reconvene as a Grant County Board of Commissioners. I have a motion by Commissioner Billings,
Second.
second by Commissioner Medina. Discussion? See none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We're back as commissioners. Commissioner Billings, do you have a report?
No, just thanks, everyone. I appreciate the detailed presentation by Mr. Andazola about the jail accreditation. It just shows how much he cares and knows what's going on in that facility, and it puts my mind at ease a little bit from where we were a few years ago. And everyone else that's working so hard to make the county work and do their job, and appreciate all your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Billings. Commissioner Medina?
Yes, just a couple comments. So there's been some concerns about ambulance services in Cliff and Gila, the Cliff and Gila area. Recently, we had a change of fire chiefs. Preston Johnson is now the fire chief out there. Gila Regional has opened up some positions to hire them on board, to bring them on board as employees. So they'll have access to our ambulances and they'll be able to use our services and things like that. So Gila Valley will be up and running to what they were prior to the Birches and that group leaving the services. Still working on the Members Valley. We're trying to get that up and running. We're pushing it as hard as we can. It's just hard to find people right now. The last thing is the reports that we're getting from the managers of the departments, the directors. They've come a long way, including pictures and comments, and I mean, it's just interesting to see all the work that they're doing. It's amazing, and it's good to have them on board. Sheriff, your report, I mean, everything's coming along, so just want to thank all of them. And Andrea, especially you've been hit with a lot, and really, your name's been mentioned a lot. It seems like every avenue you're in there, so thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Medina. Commissioner Brown?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to congratulate the organizers of the 37th tour of the Gila. I think this is the smoothest one that I've seen. My little piece of it wasn't so smooth, but that was unrelated to the overall thing. That went great. It always brings, I think, great attention to the beauty of this area. So I want to thank Manager Webb for supporting that. It was great to see our name as a presenter of one of the stages of the race. And I'm sad I might not be invited to the VIP viewing area for the criterium next year since I'll be turned out here. I recommend those of you who are still on the commission, you should take them up on it. There's good food and drinks and a lot of good conversation there while we watch the bicyclists work hard. So it's enjoyable. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all from me.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. I just have a couple of things, and I hate to do this to you, County Manager, but if you can have someone on your staff here, but you know, I've recently gotten some concerns on 90 South that, and we're not talking traffic lights, but I don't know if somebody can reach out to DOT. We're talking more of the street lights, that it gets very dark and I'm not sure, I haven't been up that way in a while at night. I'm not sure if it's light bulbs, I'm not sure if we're lacking lights up there.
Which section?
Right there at Ridge Road and 90, that area, that it's really dark at night, and I was told that if there's anything or any input that Grant County can have into either adding or, at this point, I'm not sure, fixing whatever's there. So if you don't mind, have somebody on your staff, maybe give them a call and see what that's happening. You know, the other thing that I always forget, and he does such a great job, Ben back here with our systems and our cameras or whatever it is, just really want to thank him. He does a great job for us. I always joke with him about, you know, at the time of our meetings that he needs to renegotiate or do whatever, everything he has to do. But, you know, Ben back there, I know I can't see you, but you can see me. Thank you for everything that you've done. The other thing is, last Friday, we had our New Mexico County Board of Directors meeting. Just the compliments that I got, not only in our conference center, but also as the, you know, the Buckhorn. We had a dinner and reception up there, and they were just amazed as how the Opera House side of it and everything, how amazing it was. They really liked it, they enjoyed it, and also just Grant County had a lot of questions. There's a lot of the, either commissioners, clerks, assessors, whoever's on that board, you know, asking questions on how to go around the loop to look at the mountains and all that. So they really appreciate Grant County and told me thank you. So thank you, Grant County, for that. And other than that, I am done. Go ahead, Commissioner.
I'm sorry, just a reminder, they asked me to just kind of mention, there's an event called Fight Like a Girl that's gonna be out at Fort Beard this weekend. It includes a 3K walk. Sheriff, you're probably involved in this, and me and the sheriff walked a couple of years ago together in this event, and it just raises some money for awareness for domestic violence, for different assaults and things like that, and I think it's a pretty valued thing. You get a big crowd, and they have yoga and walking and everything. That's what I mentioned, so, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Then, Commissioners, anything else? Okay, if I could have a motion to go into executive session in accordance with NMSA 1978, 10-15-1, sub H and 8.
So moved.
So a motion by Commissioner Brown, second by Commissioner Medina. Any discussion?
And this is to discuss real property.
So it's to discuss real property. Any further discussion? See none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, roll call, please.
Yes, Chairman Ponce, Commissioners, are you aware that you'll be entering executive session and I will be doing individual roll call? Chairman Ponce,
Yes.
Commissioner Billings,
Yes.
Commissioner Medina,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes, and thank you. You do that very smoothly.
And just to let you know, we have no, well, I don't know if we'll have action or not. Possibly we'll have action, so stay tuned.